Live. Hey, John, how you doing?
Bill, how you doing, sir?
You will notice you are not June.
That is incredibly true.
She just got back in off the road, so she will be joining us here a little later. But we were talking about 3D printers, right?
Yeah.
And you are not frustrated by them to no end, where you have not removed them from your life?
I've tried on numerous occasions, but somehow they keep dragging me back in, kind of mafia style. My first printer was I'm even trying to remember the name of it, but it was a kit you had to assemble back from the RepRap project. So this is like early 2000s.
It wasn't those threaded rods, was it?
All threaded rods, absolutely.
Oh, I had a Prusa Mendel that just the captive screws weren't captive, and it went downhill from there.
It was a really horrible way to try and make a rigid structure. But after about 3 months of screwing with it, I finally got a Yoda head that you could recognize as a Yoda head from Star Wars out of it. And as horrible and annoying as it was, that kind of gave me the bug. So I'm probably on printers 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6 now at this point.
Right.
I have a Prusa Mark III S. I have a Anycubic Cobra Max, which is a 400 by 400 by 450, kind of a big bed machine. And then I've got a Anycubic Mono X resin machine. Because if hot plastic squirting everywhere wasn't annoying enough, now you can have like horrific carcinogenic resins that you have to screw with and make a giant mess everywhere. So just to make it more fun.
Right. Just think though, when your body goes to decay, you'll have like this impression of your lungs done in PVC.
I don't know if you've ever seen those plastinated fish that they do. They run them through some process that takes all the proteins apart, and all of the innards are highlighted in these sort of neon colors. Right, and all the flesh is clear. That's kind of what I worry I'm going to look like in 20 years or so if I'm not careful with this crap. But anyway, it's fun for now anyway.
We thought the same when microwave ovens. It's going to be, it'll make your hair fall out. And
Right.
Well, I'm fine. You know?
Indeed.
So,
but yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of the stuff that I do for little home projects, it either needs an enclosure to go in, or it needs a hinge to hold it together, or some other kind of bit. And being able to have that in-house for tinkering it's super fun and almost worth the annoyance. Hey, June.
Hello. How's my audio? Am I blasting, or am I good?
A little hot.
Little hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I hope you drove safely. You actually look a little peaked.
Test 1, 2. How do I sound?
Yeah, good.
That works.
Good. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So no, I've been rushing around like crazy because this room was a complete and utter mess, and I have a bunch of stuff to show. So yeah. Huh.
Well, thanks for
deep breath. Center yourself.
I'm late because my Mac decided it was time to do an update, and it is still updating at this moment.
Well,
Fig.
You know how I feel about Macs, right? That's
yeah, but I don't think a video toaster is quite up to the task to do 4K video. Otherwise, I'd be using an Amiga.
Yeah, use 4 Amigas.
I don't even think they can do 1080p.
Parallel processing.
All right, let's see. Somebody said 5x5 VOC smell is so they can't be too bad for me. So nice.
Indeed.
Vox
so
June, so nice they can't be bad for me. Yes.
You were up late last night.
I was up late last night.
What were you doing?
It was a hard night last night. Let me show you what I've been up to.
Okay.
And I'm still not done.
And it's all fuzzy. There we are.
Oh, there we go. Ooh,
So, what you are looking at is a brand new Prusa XL.
Very cool. That's my first time seeing one of those in the flesh.
So this guy is, its build volume is significantly larger than I would say the Mark III. So I want to say it's almost a factor of 2 in terms of size difference.
Okay.
And it's so big, I actually can't get it into the frame most of the time. But yeah, like, there it is. Here I am.
Excellent. Excellent.
I can't even bear hug the thing. It's huge.
Well,
So-
what's it named?
Oh, I decided to call this sucker Big Bertha, or just Bertha, because it is the biggest 3D printer I have. And I'm not going to show you the other ones because they are a complete and utter mess at the moment. But I have 2 of the Prusa Minis and 1 of the Mark III's with the MMU 2F. So it can do technically multi-material. So what they, and the reason I say it like multi-material is because the MMU, it basically just has a line of like 5 filaments that come down into the unit. And then when it changes filaments, it actually cuts one of the filaments and then pulls in the next one. So you're actually mixing the filament together in the nozzle, and that's not great for printing. So like, if I can find my fancy little 3D print where I did multicolored, you end up with like color bleeding all over you. So like if you have red and white mixed together, you'll end up with like echoes of red in the white, and it looks really weird. So the cool thing about this guy is this up here. Hey, microphone. There. The cool thing about this is this little bit back here. So this guy is actually a multi-tool changer. So you can go up to 5 separate tools that it will swap between, and each one of those tools has a dedicated filament to it. So when you actually do your print, you can actually do different materials. You can do like PLA and then ABS and TPU and VBA. You can do all of those 3-letter acronyms until you're blue in the face, and they will merge properly out in the print, so you get a much better print.
Does it actually keep the hot ends of each of the tools hot when it's printing, or does it have to swap tools and then wait for them to get up to temp and then start printing?
So that one I'm not entirely sure about.
Okay.
But I imagine it's probably a customizable thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the main impetus for this is because, and somebody mentioned something about a 1581. So you guys may be familiar with a project that I've been working on called the V128 project. And that is essentially a project that I'm trying to put together where we take a Commodore 128 DCR and we shrink it down about to 1/4 the size. And that will run a Linux distribution called boot device. And basically it's like all the stuff that everybody wants in the C64 mini and stuff, but for the 128, which is a little bit better of a development platform because it's got the monitor and all that stuff built into it. This printer has much better print resolution in terms of the quality of the prints and stuff. So I'm hoping that it will actually produce a better case for the V128 when we actually get to that point.
When you say produce a better print, you're talking about a more homogeneous result, that it bonds with, kind of like welding where you need penetration?
Kind of. So
let me show you. It integrate? Does it melt the previous layer a little or not at all?
Well, okay. So let me give you a better explanation here.
Okay.
So if I zoom in on this stuff so you guys can see a little better. All right. It went out of focus. Focus, you bastard. There we go. So if I go in close, you can probably make out that there's these ribbing effects in this print.
Right.
So up at the top, especially, there's a little bit of a shadow up here. There's a what we call kind of an extrusion error. And you can see also there's a lot of like imprecision in the positioning of the filament on this print.
Right.
A lot of this is because of the printer itself. So the Mark III's that I had didn't have a whole lot of mass. And so the end result is that it doesn't have, it has a tendency to build up what's called ringing into the mechanical frame. And so what happens is the head is trying to go into the right spot, but the rest of the frame is flexing.
Control system theory. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what ends up happening is you end up with like the head shaking as it thinks it's in the right place. And so you end up with this kind of mess. But as you can see with this printer, well, I mean, it's huge.
So it's a lot
mostly
more, it's a lot more mass.
It's all steel construction.
Right.
And lifting it is non-trivial. Like that looks like it's easy because all the weight's in the back.
Yeah.
When I brought this over here, it was almost as heavy as the H27 that I have with the Heathkit machine.
Right.
It was that heavy, like 75 pounds heavy. So heavy that I couldn't even bring the box into the house to build the thing. I had to use a dollar.
And also that's a completely different kinematic system from I have an i3 too, where an i3 is moving ahead in 2 dimensions and or actually moving the bed in 1 dimension and moving the head in 2. That's moving. Is it right? It's moving the bed in 2. I know it's called Core XY, but I don't remember the exact kinematics of it, other than that it's more stable.
Right. So I actually built one of these before when I was building a whiteboard pen plotter. And effectively, it uses essentially just 2 motors to drive this head back and forth, and then also to move it forward and back. So X and Y are both handled up on this one belt.
There we go.
And then the print bed here moves up and down on a set of lead screws on either side.
Cool.
So much more stable, much more well-controlled design than what the original setup was. And then also, you may or may not be able to make out like sort of a grid pattern on this. Let me see if I can get you guys closer so you can see it a little better. But the bed is made up of multiple little squares. And the thing about that is that each one of these squares is a separate heat domain. So it can actually effectively heat this bed much more effectively than, say, a Mark III's would, which has just one big PCB with a single trace going up and down it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So more power efficient and everything. It's really quite an amazing printer. By the way, this is not sponsored by Prusa at all. I bought this thing. It was not cheap.
So you know what we call that kind of bed? That's a phased thermal array.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You're not wrong. Because they do actually run these out of phase with each other, so that they can produce a more overall even. Oh yeah, makes sense. Across the bed too.
Yeah,
I know my Prusa runs a 24 volt heat DC bed. Have they changed that at all for these?
I honestly don't know. You know, when I hooked up all this stuff, none of the cables down in here were actually labeled, and the manual didn't say. So I didn't actually dig into that yet.
Wow.
I need to.
I know on the first machine I ever put together, it had a 12 volt bed, which took forever to heat. 24 isn't a lot better. I think some of them are flirting with using AC because AC is a lot better for resistive heating. So. Yeah,
I wouldn't put AC in a heat bed. That's after the trouble.
Be a little scary.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So there's that aspect of things. That was one of the things I was working on last night, and Bill and I did a quick little stream together to talk about it and just BS each other as we were doing that. But you may also notice that I've got all of this stuff set up, and it looks kind of like my H11 shrunk. So this whole setup is Heathkit's own CPU and computer design called the H8. And this uses a 8080 CPU, has its own custom terminal, 5.25-inch floppies. Don't ask me why they didn't put those on the H11A. I don't understand why, but full height floppies, 5.25, and an H14 printer. And I just received all of these, and I'm hoping to get them up and running soon. Maybe in this stream we can turn them on, and you can take a look at the blinking lights. But
Great.
yeah.
Or we turn them on and the room goes dark.
That terminal's super slick. It's a lot more kind of angly than their other ones.
Isn't it?
Right?
But it's really a terrible terminal. This thing is so much worse than an H19. It's not even funny. So one of the things you may notice about keys is they're all uppercase. This is an uppercase only terminal.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is the key mechanism is just so. I hate typing.
How do you spell? Bleh. Exactly. Yes. Some L's, a few G's.
What's roughly the date on this setup, Jim?
So this is actually a little bit, I think, about the same time as the H11A, which is the amusing bit. So they were kind of competing with themselves on this stuff because, I mean, it's an 8-bit machine, runs its own operating system that Heathkit designed called HDOS. But what's interesting is the disks I have for it run things like Fortran. And that was like a big thing for the H11A, was being able to run things like Fortran and Pascal and stuff like that. But apparently this runs it too. So like Fortran Adventure, basic games, like it has all of the same functionality. It's just not. Oh yeah, you can also run CPM.
I saw a Microsoft assembler in there.
Yeah, Massam.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, like it has all of these things in there. Microsoft Fortran. All the big players were on this machine, not on the H11A. So it kind of begs the question, like, what were they doing in terms of marketing, or at least in terms of what they were thinking in terms of computer design and sales?
Like Heath at that time, they would always have like different price points. They'd have like the bargain basement scope, and then the slightly better scope, and then the really good one. I wonder if this one was cheaper or something. Like this was the lower cost version. It doesn't seem like it though. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I mean, honestly, the H11A goes cheaper than this thing does today.
Well,
Is it possible it's just an early one and they were meanwhile scrambling to make it better?
Possibly.
Yeah.
It is very possible.
That's the story of the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64. You know, we threw something over the wall and it gave us time to throw something over the wall.
If you believe Wikipedia, they list the kit price as $12.95 for the H11A.
So cheaper. Oh no, yeah, the H11A.
In the 80s,
but the H11A
70s?
only had just the H11A.
Ah, interesting.
And that was a paper tape system. Oh, okay. So I got the terminal working.
No smoke.
No smoke.
Oh, we got a cursor. That's good.
I got a cursor. It doesn't blink. Let me focus on this thing so you guys can see a little better. I can't find my...
It's blinking. It's just it's got a 4-second persistence.
Yeah, something like that. So
it's good for asteroids.
So it's got some problems with the keyboard. If I switch it into offline mode, usually that makes it work better. Yeah, but what you're not seeing is that it's the cursor is down below the text in a separate line.
Interesting.
When you say offline mode, are you talking about half duplex and full duplex?
No, it actually has a full duplex switch. The offline mode means basically just local echo. It turns off the serial port.
That's what I meant. Right. So when you said it's faster, I'm remembering the day when full duplex was slower than half. That's cool.
Yeah, these keys are messed up. I'm hitting essentially Control J. Oh yeah, now it's blinking.
Okay, there you go.
So like, there's
Is it,
something really screwy going on in here.
Is
Like,
it,
it's not decoding that right.
is it a green or blue CRT? I can't quite tell.
It is a white CRT.
White is
Ooh.
what I was going to guess.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Let me get you pointed up here.
So my
Okay.
H11, or sorry, my H19, the original H19 I had was a blue screen. This
Mhm.
one's white.
I say blue. It's that kind of black and white, bluish, whatever. There's, I forget the phosphor numbers, but yeah, very cool.
So now this guy is a little different. So you can see it's got the front panel and the actual, like, technically a hex keypad, but it really only uses octal. And if I turn this guy on,
Oh, hey, there we go. All right.
yeah, so it's telling me that it's a stack pointer is currently setting at 377 in RAM somewhere. And then using the keypad, we can actually get it to do things. I haven't really done a whole lot with it yet. It was just basically a quick power on to see if it would work. But it actually has a mode indicator on here. It's kind of hard to see, but if you see all the decimal places here, cycling from right to left,
Right.
I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah,
as
yeah, it shows up real
scanning
good.
is. Yeah, okay.
Now,
Let's see if I
does
can fix
this
that.
work at 90 volts AC?
I believe. I actually don't know.
I'm talking about Midwest. Your frustration with.
Oh, yeah. No, I can't get a good scan on that. That's going to have to be as good as we can get.
Well, we do see the decimal points.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there is a way to get this guy. Oh, yeah, that's right. So if we hit the go key, it's actually going to try and print to the H17. I'm not sure what this is trying to say. Oh, no, it's telling me it's trying to boot from the H17 floppy drive that's sitting next to it, which I don't have hooked up. And then it tells me boot error.
Oh, okay.
And then now our stack pointer's changed, so it's actually loading and running from ROM. It's just we can't see anything yet because I'm not done restoring it.
Yeah, remember when computers had telephone keypads on the front of them?
I was gonna say that's pretty user friendly for a front panel.
It really is when you compare it to something like this, right? Which one do you want to use?
The top one.
The top one. You might want to use the top one, maybe I would say like 10 times.
I'm a hardware
Jack-
engineer.
Okay,
colors-
so you
the
like
color
doing
scheme.
things the hard way.
Yes.
The color palette is cooler, if nothing else.
It really is.
Yeah.
But even DEC moved away from the Switch system because it was just so cumbersome. They actually
Right.
switched over to a programmer console that was very similar to what you're seeing on the H8 here. They had a keypad like this and a rotary knob to change the modes, and you would just type in octal on a keypad like this. So
Cool.
that's my latest toy. I got to do a lot of work on the inside. This is actually more cantankerous than I would say the H11A is because it doesn't use a DEC card cage. It uses a Heathkit card cage.
Wow.
So it's a
And-
backplane setup as well.
It's all pin headers.
Ooh.
It's painful. And they all slide in this way at an angle because the front face is sliding at an angle. So
Mm.
all the cards are also at an angle in the back.
That's colorful.
But the cool thing about this is everybody, like the enthusiasts, are actually building new cards for this thing constantly. So it should be a fun little toy.
Very cool.
That's super neat.
Now, where'd you get this?
I got this actually from someone who approached me about this at VCF Midwest.
Midwest.
They
Okay.
actually brought me a box of the floppies, and then I said I didn't have an H8 and I wouldn't be able to use it. And then later on they sent me an email saying, "Hey, my friend is trying to get rid of his H8."
Wow. Wow. That's
So
cool.
I contacted them, and here it is. So yeah,
So
Oh,
the
yeah.
diskettes were like the free crack, knowing that you'd have to come back for an H8.
yes. So
I can
one
see
other
it.
thing.
You got any Heathkit, man? Anything at all?
Well, it even comes with this printer, and the
Wow.
printer is actually pretty cool. So the design of it is very, very simple. It's just essentially a serial printer. It's only a 9-pin serial connector using these horrible little automotive connectors again. But the whole top just comes up like this.
Oh, hey.
And that's the printer.
So, like, the days when printers were printers.
It uses string as the belt to drive the head.
Yep.
And it uses teletype ribbons. So real simple. And then all of this logic over here is like 10,000 times simpler than the equivalent logic that's over in this guy, which is just insane. This thing actually has an entire card cage in the back.
Oh, Lord. Wow.
And uses a much more complex mechanism too, right? So like it's got a big belt over here, another nice huge belt in the middle. And the print head it's an 8-pin print head going vertical. So much more complex mechanism. So one other thing about the what year?
Oh, yeah, what year in general are the Heathkits you're showing? How old are they?
1970s-ish.
Okay.
So when we were at Midwest, I had a bunch of these placards made up to talk about the various machines. And, you know, I had one for the Famicom, one for the DCR.
Right.
And then the Heathkit H11A, the release date was 1978.
Okay. Okay.
So that's about contemporary with the H8, I think. Because they were both being advertised about the same time.
Got it.
So a common thing with Prusa is that when you buy one of these things, you buy it as a giant kit. And so like I've had to assemble all of these pieces together. And in a normal printer, they give you a bag of Haribo gummy bears. Well, this is an XL. So they gave you Jumbo gummy bears.
They
and
look
every
like
step, every step they tell you to eat exactly one.
Oh, that's the okay. I
So
thought you had to match them to the right consistency for torquing or something.
Oh no! Yeah.
Screw it down till your gummy is 2 inches round.
They look like they may have suffered a little bit in shipping. They look a little stuck together, maybe. I don't know. That may just be the camera.
No, that's just the box. So they actually they look okay.
All right.
So the gummies are not substandard.
They are not substandard gummies. They are proper Haribo.
There's been significant gummy inflation because when I got my Mark III, that came with a fairly small, like almost not quite a fun size, but kind of like a half size bag of gummies. Then the Mark III S upgrade kit came with a full size bag. So at some point they're going to have to like go to a whole crate or something.
Car deal, you know, car manufacturers do the same thing. They get you to upgrade to the newest model just for like a new cup holder or something. So very cool.
That's going to be exciting to see that cranking out some stuff. That's a really cool machine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this guy work. With any luck, I'll be able to wire in a webcam off on the side, and we'll be able to look at the thing build up the layers as it goes in sort of a time lapse, which could be a lot of fun.
Now, have they actually done any like web integration? Like all my printers have Octoprint servers hanging next to them, which always seemed kind of silly just because there's already a computer in it. Have they mixed that in yet, or is that still a external thing?
The Prusa Mini started out with doing something equivalent to that over Ethernet. And then later they started building up this whole infrastructure that was an alternative to Octoprint. And the Prusa XL, as far as I'm aware, is the first Prusa printer with Wi-Fi.
Interesting.
So this guy actually uses an STM32 as its driver board. And they have an ESP32 on the driver board as well. Now the Prusa Mark III, you could actually get the Raspberry Pi 0W and stick that
Right.
onto the
Right.
board and then technically give it Wi-Fi.
Right, but if I remember the
yeah.
manual correctly, the Octoprint guys were like, zero
Yeah, don't do that.
kind of is on the edge of, because I mean, literally, it's just pushing stuff down a serial connection that's emulated over USB, but it's serial. And the I think the Octoprint guys were like, yeah, this might work, it might not. I don't know. All of the ones I have are either Pi 3s or like Allwinner CPU machines of various caliber, like not Orange Pi, that's not the right name, I can't think of it, but Libra Computing, that's the name of it. So Pi knockoffs, basically, because you haven't been able to get Pis for a while.
That's changing, actually.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
Yeah, what's the model number, June? That of the little keyboard thing. Was that a 400?
Oh, yeah, that was a Pi 400.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we started talking about the V128. So I asked Bill to help me out with doing a cost reduction on the boards and stuff. We're still sort of trying to figure that out. But yeah, he shipped me a Pi 400.
Now,
because it basically does everything.
The part you don't know is that cost me like $270 because I tried to send them. The first two came to me.
Yeah.
You got the third one. Apparently, I don't know how to drop ship something.
Did you not stick enough stamps on the box or something? Or?
I had DigiKey do it for me, and they're like, here's your Pi 400. Here's your Pi 400.
That's amazing.
Any computer that comes with a keyboard built in immediately makes me happy. So the Pi 400 is a nice thing.
See, I agree with that.
Nice. I just wish it wasn't a Pi.
Yep, indeed.
Keyboard came with power supply.
Mm-hmm.
None of that hokey. You buy a Pi and the power supply is not big enough and it resets. No,
indeed.
Now we used to be able to cook eggs right on that little piece of metal there.
There you go. Has a keyboard built in.
Yep. Excellent. There was a question in chat if anyone, I saw it go by a little while ago, asking if anyone had used a 64 or a 128 to control a 3D printer. And I want to say I saw someone use an SX64 for that. Because as I mentioned before, it's just serial. And you can send it really, really slowly. So if you send some code to it, it will run, albeit slowly. So I want to say I saw somebody on Hackaday do that with a portable 64.
I'm curious why we don't have 1 gigahertz 6502s by now. You know, the core is reasonable. How come we couldn't just take that thing all the way up? Right? We only have like 40 megahertz 6502s. You know, in emulation.
We totally could.
Yeah.
So there was one other thing that happened during Midwest. And this is kind of the thing that happened during Midwest.
There you go. There's one of the little original guys.
This is not just the original guy. This is the original guy. This is Bill's original 128D.
Oh.
A proper 128D.
Right.
With all of his stuff on it.
Yeah.
Not an Amiga. Watch your ass. So this guy, this was Bill. Thank you again so much.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad it's got a home.
Well, we're gonna try and see. Do you know if these are if the casing is a prototype or not?
I would bet it's I just caught myself before I said soft tool. It might be a hard tool.
Okay. So then this is probably close to the production mold then.
Yes, that should represent the production mold. It's a hard tool. You're right.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. All right. That's kind of what I wanted to know, because the question was whether or not we should spend some time trying to model the whole thing that we can get the dimensions right. But if it's close to the original or close to the production one, then I guess we don't need to do that.
Oh, right. And that was the purpose of these is, we were getting ready to go, in production. Yeah. And then we didn't go.
Which is sad. But yeah, it's even signed by Bill. On the inside, this was his personal C-128 during development. BilHerd, September 10th.
Very nice.
Wow. I don't remember doing that.
We were sitting in the hotel room. Or not the room, but the hotel lobby. Remember?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's funny. That actually does happen at a show. I'll see a 128, and then I'll see my signature, and it's like, oh, each one's my child.
Yep.
So, and you'll fix that floppy drive, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I actually, corollary to the B128 project, I'm actually going to have to hold off on using my replacement 1571 floppy drive because I got to ship this one over to Matthew so he can model it. We're actually going to try an experiment. We're going to, instead of modeling the entire DCR, we're just going to model the 1571 so that we can get the physical interaction sorted and figured out individually. And then we're going to try going for the full DCR experience a little bit later. But effectively, the idea is that you get the V1571 and you plug that into your Raspberry Pi 400 and run Vice using boot device. And now you have essentially a Commodore 128 wedge with your 1571 and you get the physicality experience there. It's still not 100% because you don't have the right keyboard layout, but it gets close and it's cheap. So it'll get people to that a little bit faster, I think. And then later we'll do the full DCR and hopefully it'll be a lot more cooler.
Wow, very cool.
I guess I haven't been up on it recently, but Vice will drive real hardware like IEC drives and stuff. It
can through a library called OpenCDM.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and it will totally do that. But we're not going to go that far.
Okay.
Because that's a little too much. Too much engineering effort necessary to get there. So the idea here is that we want to be able to swap floppies. And I mean, I put these up on the Prusa. I didn't really talk about them. So essentially, we've got quarter size 5 1/4 inch floppies, right?
That's cute.
And the idea here is that on the reverse side, they have this little inlay. This is NFC inlay.
Oh, you're kidding.
And so there's a chip in there that you can then use to represent your floppy disk. So if you have a multi-disk system, then you can actually just tie these to the disk images that are on your SD card, and then you just swap them however you need. And you've got that instead of using a cumbersome menu.
So that's just the identifier. It's not storing data, but you map that identifier to an image. Okay.
I actually did want to store actual data on these, but unfortunately, the biggest we can get for NFC is like 64 kilobits.
Yeah, it's in the couple of bytes range. It's not a lot.
Yeah. Well, no, you can get pretty big. You can get 64 kilobits, which is like
they're just not already set up as a module, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other side of the coin is they're not thin enough. And then we also did try looking at smart cards, which is sort of like what your credit card uses nowadays.
Right.
And those, I actually found some modules that will go up to 512 kilobits, but divide by 8, right? You only get like 64 kilobytes of storage, which is not even enough for a 1541 disk image, which is like something like 200K. I don't remember offhand.
It's so funny. It's just like convergent, streams of evolution. So this is something I did a little while ago for an Etsy store that I never launched because Etsy got super weird. It's just a little 3D printed, 5 1/4 floppy. But I went and found the smallest little USB flash drives that I could find and got the tolerances really good so it would sit right in there. and you can
Nice.
just, it's just a little, it's decorative for a off-the-shelf flash drive. I printed little sleeves too, little plastic plastic paper sleeves that they go in. I don't have one of those handy, but
I've got those too. I just forgot to bring one over.
So this looks really funny when you plug it into a Gotek drive emulator. And
Oh,
it's
wow.
like the floppy sitting on the outside, but it works.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, mine were a little thicker because the device had to be a
Origami.
little thicker to fit. But yeah. That's cool.
So the idea with this was to maybe make it a little more physical. Also, in terms of using like a Cricut or something to cut out a disc in vinyl, like sticky vinyl, and then just close it around the NFC, and now you've got your disc.
Right.
Hmm.
If you
So
want
it's
to do
actually floppy instead of these hard things.
if you want to do any like testing or prototyping with that, I have a 28-inch. It's not a Cricut, but it's the Chinese knockoff one that is the same price as the Cricut, but like twice as wide and 4 times harder to use. So if you get anything you want cut, let me know.
Sure. Well, actually, the interesting thing about the XL is the tool changer. They're making promises about doing things like maybe laser cutting, maybe drag knife stuff.
Oh, that
so
would
we'll
be
see.
really cool. Wow. Okay. Huh.
Yes. So the 1571 that we're going to build is going to have like a piezo speaker hanging off of the SoC that we use.
Wow.
And I'm going to try and make that do like clunking and all that stuff. So it's actually going to get those commands from Vice. Fingers crossed. We'll see. This will not be mainline Vice. I'm going to have to do some changes to it to make it fully supported. But I've been working with Blackie Stardust from the Vice team, and I've been submitting stuff in there. I haven't done it lately, but yeah, we're kind of converging on a situation where we can actually tie this into the system and then hopefully make it work the way we want, including audio effects.
Yeah, cool.
That whole project's super cool. I'm using some of their command line utilities for a project that I'm doing. So super, super cool stuff.
So you know, one of the Trojans back in the Commodore days was it would you'd load, it was Winter Games 2 or something, and it would play a song on your heads.
Oh no.
So in theory, you with your piezo, we could play a song on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think it was is Anchors Away or something. They were so very cool.
Adds that extra voice to the SID.
Right. Well, you heard Albert the other day talk about the extra voice. Yeah, the original one had 4 voices in it, the original SID. But and Albert still remembered the mills and stuff, the size of it, and he's like, increasing it decreased the yield. And it was no longer bound by just the pads around the chip. It was bigger than being pad bound. And that's where you start to lose yield, is what I gathered. So that was cool. It's like, oh, SID was almost 4.
Almost 4.
Yeah.
Instead
I picture Yanis, like, you know, going a sharpened tear going, really? You know?
I'll bet that was a big letdown, because the zeitgeist, or at least the rumors are that Yanis really wanted more channels. Because I think he did an interview at one point.
Yeah, just from how brilliant I hear that he is, I can bet he, yeah. And Andy Finkel's talked about Yanis had this attitude of 1 clock to bring them all and bind them, right? And I just, yeah, that's clock domain, right? Early, yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. Wow. So where were you today? Is that something?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So,
okay.
Yeah, so before this live stream, and actually the reason why I was late is because I just drove 2 hours from San Antonio. I went to a little place called SAMSAT, SAMSAT, and I believe it is samsat.org. I'm not 100% certain. But this is a computer history museum, effectively, for kids. And I am helping out the curator there to restore a number of their big iron machines. So they have Area 21, which is the big open area right now, and it has like a big robot arm and like a bunch of the modern stuff laid out. And the owner of the place is actually an ex-Data Point employee, and actually he did a whole bunch of really cool stuff relating to the early Intel CPUs. In fact, they designed the first terminal that used Intel's CPU. So essentially, they built a terminal out of discrete logic, and then they went to Intel and they said, "Hey guys, we really need a CPU." And then Intel turned them down and said, "No, we don't make CPUs. We only make RAM."
Right.
So they went on, they built their thing out of discrete logic, and then they came back later, and then Intel was like, "Yeah, we got the 4004."
Right.
And so then Data Point used that in their terminal. It was the first CPU controlled terminal, I think, that was ever made.
What year do you think?
1960 something, like late 60s. But like it was way late. And they had a bunch of stuff in there, like good grief. The curator actually was building things like teleconferencing systems. So Data Point made another competing technology for networking called ArcNet.
I
So if you've ever heard of Ethernet and its ThinNet implementation, the system that was designed by Xerox, somebody corrected me on that. I said it was DEC in a previous stream. You are right. It is Xerox. Sorry. Xerox invented Ethernet, but ArcNet came before, and that was made by Data Point. And that was closer to like baseband cable video. And so what David was able to do, David is the curator's name, by the way, he was able to put video streaming on ArcNet. And so he had these terminals where you could use it as a normal terminal, but you could also teleconference with people using a camera built into it, and it would stream to your actual CRT. So totally wacky, crazy, cool stuff. And he was looking for people to help out with his bigger projects. And so I was down there today trying to restore an HP 1000F, and I got like this close. This seems to be a recurring theme, because like last weekend I was down there and I was restoring an HP 3000, and we got it to boot, but the hard drive's toast. So we can't do it. So I was trying to get the HP 1000 working, and the power supply's got a short somewhere on the power supply main board because its breaker just kept tricking.
Right.
So yeah,
that's cool. Keeps you off.
I've been volunteering there like crazy.
Yeah, keeps you out of trouble, off the streets, and restore some computers.
Well, I was gonna say, if there's one thing that everybody in this chat needs, it's some more projects to work on. So it's good you managed to find something.
Right. Yeah. I'm sitting there. What you can't see whenever you go to somebody's studio, you don't see what's on the floor. Yeah, like Adrian Black has talked about it, and so yeah, I have projects literally about 270 degrees around me.
Yeah, you never look at the floor.
Yeah, just
it's a hard drive. That is an HP 1000 or HP 21MX hard drive, cartridge hard drive on the floor.
Okay.
Is that what just came in today?
No, that didn't just come in today. There was another one I was going to show, but I can't get my camera around the benches.
Right.
So, but yeah, the reason that's on the floor, that's heavier than the H27. That sucker is like 100 pounds.
Got a lot of gravity in it.
Yeah, well, just a little.
I was going to say, I did know when June did receive it, as we did notice the change in the gravimetric index here. Also, a slight bump in the weak force. That was a little scary. Yeah.
And this is the power supply for it.
Oh my God. So the drive and the power supply rack up together. That's insane.
Yes, and you can see what the power supply is doing to the cable.
Yeah, no
it's
kidding.
Like bending it.
Well,
there's a reason why this is on the floor, because I don't have anything that can hold it.
Holy crap.
But this machine was designed to It was designed just after HP got away from core memory. And so what did they do? They gave you a giant NiCad battery to hang off the back so that you could retain the memory contents just like you did with the core memory.
Wow.
Oh, that was when we were looking at your Mini after VCF West. It had a battery terminal input in the back, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So the Mini is actually over here. I'm going to try this. I may not be able to make it. You know what? Let's see if I can disconnect this maybe from the wall so I can get it closer. We'll go on battery this time. If I die, you know why. It's because I grabbed the terminals.
Well,
So
I'm
that
waiting
video-
for
Yes.
the screen to just go dark again like last time.
There. So
Cool.
you're looking at
There it
the
is.
21MX and its terminal, which I just received recently.
Wow.
And this guy actually
wow.
really does work. It's got a full CRT and everything. It's like nice and clean. These typically get a lot of cataracts, but I got lucky on this one. It doesn't actually have any cataracts. Their main means for data transfer was on a tape.
Mhm.
These little horrible quick tapes. And you just slap it in there and copy stuff across to it.
Oh, the QIC format? Like
Yep.
Quick 40? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Some particular kind of QIC, just some variant.
Yes.
I remember.
This is,
I remember Curious Mark spending a lot of time figuring out how to rebuild those.
oh wow.
Oh, yeah. In fact, this keyboard is from Curious Mark.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah. So I visited him and I kept talking with him and I was like, oh, so I got this. And he's like, oh, you need a keyboard. Actually, you need the graphics keyboard. Let me find it for you. And then he told me this. So this is the proper keyboard. This is the graphics terminal, which even he doesn't have.
And
So,
you should have
yeah.
seen them. They weren't just, they were on the floor together looking at
Yes.
the HP
Mhm,
stuff
mhm.
because it's on the lower shelf.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see if we can find that photo.
It looked like it was a one-piece thing. It didn't look like the keyboard was separate from that angle, but that's cool.
Oh, it is actually a separate keyboard. You
Huh.
can actually move it around and everything.
Fancy.
Cool. Well, cool.
Uh-oh.
I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. John, thanks for jumping in there. June,
worries.
cool stuff as usual. Glad you
More to
didn't.
come.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Well, that's life, isn't it? Described as a collector. It's well. I've been talking to June about she should start her own museum. I think she's like a curator at heart.
No doubt.
So
There's
very cool.
Very start to it, just in the frame we can see right there. So
Yeah.
So this is what. Oh, good grief! I guess I can't do this. Too bad. I'll do a. Yep, the network is just not going to work. I was going to share a photo, but that isn't going to happen because Brave needs permissions. The technology is horrible. But the last thing I wanted to show, because I did manage to get my camera over there. This also happened in Midwest. So this is the terminal that goes with this. This is the actual HP 21MX mini computer. It does work. I actually had it doing chase lights. But then this guy showed up. So this is the proper
paper
tape reader for the HP. And this guy is, quote, a little bit mousy because it came from a barn. So I've got a big restoration job coming up. But this guy came from a guy who goes by the name of Silent 700. His name is also Jason.
Jason. Yeah.
And he happens to organize VCF Midwest. And I found this in his warehouse and asked, hey, can I fix this thing up for you, use it with my 21MX for a little while, and then bring it back next year? And he was like, yeah, well, we'll have to take a look at it. And we didn't really talk about anything for the rest of the evening. And then I was getting ready to go. And as I get to my truck, here he is lugging this thing alongside, like trying to get it into the truck. And I'm like, wait, I thought we were going to talk about this. And he's like, well, it'll be another year. Let's just do it.
Right.
So now I have the paper tape punch. It's not mine, of course, but Hopefully I can get that working and I can get all of the paper tapes read.
These things just follow you home, Jim.
Apparently. I don't understand it.
Do you actually have tapes for it?
I do, actually. I don't know where they are, but I do have them.
Very cool.
Oh, check this out.
Oh.
So this isn't actually a tape. This says dynamic mapping instructions. These are new instructions for the mini computer.
Okay.
They are literally microcode cards.
Wow.
So you can extend the ISA just by plugging these into it. And then you've got a new opcode.
These were some of the options that when we all were looking at the manuals that you could add extra stuff for the virtual memory options for that machine. That's cool.
But yeah, I've got the paper tape, I think, in another box. Probably not this box. No. Well, yeah, I do have the paper tapes.
Very cool.
Long and the short of it.
So Garth Beagle just joined us. Garth, you're an hour too late.
Oh no!
But you can rewind. That's the beauty of this, of technology. Excellent.
It was so. It was never internet. It was always computers.
Always computers.
Right. Whoop. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Again, amazing collection you have there, June. John, we got to show your printer sometime.
I got to do a little show and tell myself. I'll have to do that sometime.
Right, and I can show where my printer used to be. So very good. All right.
There's a little sneak preview. Something printed.
Cool. Print it. Yeah, that's very cool.
For next time.
Excellent. Everybody have a good night, a good weekend, and we'll catch you maybe next Saturday night. Who knows?
See y'all later.
Bye.